Hello, hello. This is Desiree with Hands, Hooks, and Heart. Thank you so much for joining me today. I make things with my hands, with hooks sometimes, always with my heart. Can't make a full heart because I'm holding my camera. And I thought that for today's video, I would show you a real quick peek at my yarn stash, my storage solutions, and my workspace. So we will start. This is the upstairs of my home, and my yarn storage, as you can see, has grown into the hallway. So I will just start off real life, real mess. This shelving unit is a bunch of abandoned works in progress. It could be something like a knitting project from yarn that was given to me by somebody who no longer wanted to work with it, a sewing project that I started when I took a beginning sewer's class. This was supposed to be a baby dress, but I couldn't get gauge to match, so I've got about 4 more years until it fits the pretty little girl that it's intended for. Let's see, this was a practice stitch. Anyway, you get the idea. These are just things that I have yet to decide if I'm going to frog or finish. And then this wall, this has fabric and heirloom pieces that belong to my mother. So until I figure out what I would like to do with them so that I can repurpose them and use them, they're just sitting safely up above. Can't bring myself to get rid of my early 2000s DVD technology. I don't know why. But then this is my blanket yarn stash. This is a visiting puppy dog. And then I have some of my yarn here, lots of variegated worsted weight, size 4 yarn, size 5 yarn. And my DK yarn has tumbled over into this area, as well as more worsted weight. And then if I swing along to this side, these are more of my fall warm toned worsted weight acrylic yarns here. And we are at the top of my stairs. These used to be the legs to my work table that is over here. And then my boyfriend said, well, why don't you use bookshelves and get storage space for more yarn? And I said, what a fantastic idea. So that's what I did. And let's see, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a lot of my blanket yarns, my chunky 25 millimeter hook size yarns if I'm crocheting, or my chunky finger knitting yarns. Up here I have shipping supplies, vacuum seal bags, and envelopes. Up here I have some notions like my granny square card deck, my blocking board pins, and some cute little souvenirs from travel. I have a couple crochet books stuck in there as well. And then at the bottom, I have some of my size 6 yarns that I like to use for making chunky weight projects. Hobby Lobby has started their annual yarn clearance, so I'm in the process of finding room for those. This is my year-to-date total of yarn skein labels or wraps for my chunky yarn here in the corner. So the mess is a little bit hidden when you come up the stairs, but last year I kept track of how much yarn I used, how many skeins of each kind, and how many miles of yarn I used, or how many yards of yarn I used. And then, so I intend to keep up with it. All these bags, all the rest of the bags that you will see in my workspace are works in progress. And they could be things that I actually do pick up and work on, and things that are more like, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it. This is another wall of mostly acrylic yarns, and there are cubbies under this desk area that you can't see because of the desk. And as you'll notice, they're not all full, so that's where I intend to organize some of the new stuff that I've received. Again, more shipping supplies here. I can pull out my laptop from this cubby. You can't see it because it's a dark wood, but I do have a yarn bowl in there for when I pull from the outside. Notebook paper for writing notes, and cardstock for making my care tags for my chunky blanket creations. Got to try to make hacky sacks soon, so I bought some nylons, you know, those disposable nylon socks for when you go to the shoe store. This was given to me by somebody who's no longer crafting. More project bags. Each bag has its own project. This was some experimenting that I was doing with granny squares in chunky yarn. More Hobby Lobby clearance. I don't like Hobby Lobby politics, but I do love their loss leaders where you get 75% off of yarn, so they're not making any money off of it. This is one of the first projects I started last year, and I decided to set it aside for some more time-sensitive projects, and I have yet to get back to it. So we'll see. It seems like there's always somebody else to buy or to make a project for. And that one does not have a timeline, so it keeps getting pushed back. This was a Halloween stitch sampler blanket that I started and decided, you know what, I'm not really sure I will ever get actual use out of this. Between the colors and the busyness and all the holes, it won't be a very practical blanket for me. So now it's a table runner on my sewing station. And in full honesty, my sewing station is used mostly by my daughter, who is a much better seamstress than I. So it works for us. And on top of this shelf, I have all kinds of little sample bits of things that I've tried and decided I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Or maybe, you know, like this cat butt coaster. It would not have been well received by the intended recipient or their guardian. So these are just little fun bits that I keep around, and things that didn't work out for me, like why is this ruffling? Who knows? Pattern testing before it goes into a real project, that kind of stuff. So I keep these here where I can see them. They bring me joy because of the color and the creativity. And sometimes I'll pick something up from here and actually use it as a decorative motif on another project. So I have my iron and a towel to use as an ironing board on top of a table. Sewing notions in here. My pins go in here. Let's see. Over here, I have some of my thinner weight yarns from size 1 to size 3, and then even some bulky or chunky stuff down here, my mandalas. This is a lot of my DK yarns and cotton or cotton blend yarns. Here, my cat's favorite place to perch while I am crafting if she is not sitting on my work table. More size 6 yarns here, yarn spinner, blocking boards. This is my bucket of scrap balls and things that I'm not going to keep working on. So if I need project stuffing or just little bits and scraps. Over here, behind this picture of my kids, I have my scrap jars. So every time I take a pair of scissors to cut off my ends. I add those ends to the jar. I started this one in 2026. This one is full, and it is from 2025, and it is crammed full. It's also serving as a little model for me. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little kitty cat sticker or stencil on top of this jar. At any rate, we'll just set that back there. And let's see, storage bags for either big chunky blankets or big chunky yarn. These cabinets, these two are my son's hobby cabinets, and that one has sewing notions and school supplies, mostly for my daughters. Up here, this is a collection that is a collaboration between the Crochet Society and Hooked by Robin. Again, it's a project that is on a back burner to the point that I haven't even started it yet. It is her festival blanket that is so fun. But anyway, you can check out YouTube for her Granny Square tutorials for her festival blanket. Let's see, up here on top of these cabinets, I have my Caron Colorama Halo cakes. I've got some size 6 yarn. This is all a project that I actually started with Granny Squares. Not sure what I'm going to make with that. More Caron cakes. These are Granny Square skeins and loop yarn that I want to try making borders for my chunky blankets with. These fun guys were plushy pattern testing that I helped with. Baskets because they hold a lot of good stuff for gifts. More yarn, all different sizes. More works in progress. Each bag is a different project. This is actually filled with Christmas ornaments and things to do a craft. So it is not yarn related. But then you can see here I have a lot of Caron cakes and some all-in-one Flower Power and Granny Square yarn that I don't intend to use as directed, but hopefully I will use it at some point. More baskets for gifts, more yarn. I've got a pillow insert. Last year a lot of my loved ones received hand crocheted pillows, and so these are the inserts that I used. My Caron anniversary cakes, foam boards for blocking, more yarn. All my cotton yarns like that are good for market bags and dishcloths. So this is the sturdier cotton, scrubby yarn, etc. Over here I have my yarn winder that is currently a hat stand. My pile of bags, both reusable project bags and shopping bags waiting to be reused rather than thrown away. Polyfill and super small skeins for when I need specific colors but not very much of them. This bucket contains supplies that I use for my crochet classes. When I teach crochet in person, each of my students receives some yarn with an appropriate crochet hook. I'm trying to see if I have a kit made up, but I don't think so. And then they also get things like a tape measure, a pair of scissors, some stitch markers, a yarn needle. Here we go. Oh, nope, those are just tape measures. A couple stickers and some other fun little things. So that's my basket for teaching people how to crochet. More Caron cakes here. My printer. These are things that I need to save for taxes, like if I pay for patterns or other supplies like yarn. I have my looms here for chunky knitting and my tripod equipment. This here is to set my phone around my neck so that I can give first-person point of view for video tutorials. A hand weight that I use to help keep my chunky yarn on my workspace as I am making blankets that grow, grow, grow. More shipping supplies. I just came back from the post office, so that's why all the shipping supplies are out. Under here you can see I use more storage space for my chunky yarn. I can put my feet up while I'm working here. I have been on a bag kick lately, so I have a lot of yarn for making tote bags. Have to keep my workspace partially covered with samples so that my kitty cat feels welcome to come hang out with me. General supplies, water, Kleenex, cleaning things, clamps, again to hold my chunky blankets in place while I'm working on them as they grow. Thank you cards with care instructions. Of course, my daughter ruined this one, but that's okay. Oh, this is just a little sentimental bag that I got in Greece last fall. And it has all the yarn labels in it from projects that I made while I was on vacation in Greece, Turkey, and Spain. So I couldn't bring myself to recycle those when I recycled the rest of last year's projects. Skein labels, I should say. I had someone request emotional support poop emoji plushies with chalkboards to say things like, well, crap, or you got this shit. So I had to get some little chalkboards. And then in here, I have notions, extra hooks, my business labels to put on my projects, sewing notions like buttons and snaps, stitch markers, yarn needles, pony beads, all kinds of different stuff in there. Second drawer, pom-poms, which are good for beanies and plushies, like if you're making bunnies or snowmen. Clothespins, again, just practical tools. Safety eyes, embroidery floss, things that you might need little bits and pieces of. And then this bottom drawer is ribbons for wrapping up some presents and orders. And another work in progress here, and random paperwork, and to be determined supply storage. So that is my workspace. This is where the magic happens. If I'm going to be sitting for hours, I want to be comfortable, so I have a little cushion here. These are teacher appreciation gifts that will be going out to my daughter's teacher and instructional assistants in a day or two. And my workspace. So when I print out patterns, if they need stapling, of course everyone needs scissors, stitch markers, writing implements, more water because I need to hydrate, business cards, a candle, excuse me, that I can use either with my chunky knitting or just for aroma and ambiance. I have a little cutesy toolbox here. I keep markers and lighters and other tools of the trade in here so that everything is easily within arm's reach. And that is my workspace, my studio, I guess you could call it. It is not the neatest. It is definitely lived in. And of course, TV can keep me company. The doggy keeps me company. And walking up my stairs, coming into my yarnery, my craft space, my stash space, just brings me joy. I love seeing all this color. And I think there is one little corner that I forgot to show you. Just another set of shelves for my chunky yarn. And I am trying to make a scrap blanket for myself that is going to be in a lot of purples with some green and some black and some gray or pink in it. So that's why all of those are here. And then again, covering surfaces with projects or stitch samplers from previous tutorials, trying to fill it up with pretty and unique things. Oh, I love skulls. This is a skull granny square pattern by Woman Walking a Wire. She does amazing designs. Customer thank yous, hair scrunchies. I ride motorcycles, so this was a present that I wanted to display with where all my color is. And chunky yarn, snowmen. So that is it. This is my workspace. I hope you've enjoyed it. Looking out my backyard, hi love, and around back down to my staircase.